Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Can you guys hear? Is it clear? So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yesterday we started discussing the times of Salah, and we mentioned, if you look in here, someone can just type and indicate that it is clear and you can hear, please. So, we discussed the times of Salah, and it said the first Salah was Fajr, and the entry time is the breaking of dawn, right? And we told you the breaking of dawn is what? It is when the broad light appears on the horizon, that one that stays and it doesn't disappear, right? The one that comes before that, which is known as Subh Kadhib, is a long light, a vertical light which appears and it disappears again and it gets dark again, right? So the one that appears, you must try it out, inshallah. Nowadays, winter also. Yeah. So the vertical light that comes, appears, and disappears, that's not the one. That's Subh Kadhib. That does not herald the entry time of Fajr. It does not herald the end of the night. It does not herald the end of Tahajjud. It does not herald the start of the fast, right? The one which comes, it stays and spreads across the horizon. But try it out, inshallah. Nowadays, Fajr is very late. So here in PE at the moment, Fajr time comes in at about 2 minutes to 6. So you just so it's nice and late. Make you might go out, see you can see it. Maybe you can see it, but as I said, you won't maybe see it because of the light pollution, and we're not trained to see it. But try it out, inshallah. Allah Ta'ala will reward you. Okay, if you have a look, Allah will reward you, inshallah, because you obviously making effort in Deen. So the other thing I want to tell you is, remember I told you yesterday that, in America and in UK they have this ikhtilaf about degrees. They say that Fajr come in at this degree and Fajr come in at that degree. I want to clarify something. It doesn't mean they're abandoning the Sunnah method. That degree is just a way of determining. So when one group of scholars says, I can't remember the numbers, but I'm just giving my own number, just for example's sake, I should have checked it up. For example, if one group of scholars said Fajr time comes in at 15 degrees, that's not to say now that they're abandoning the Sunnah way of looking at the Subh Sadiq or Subh Kazib and now they're working. No. When they say Fajr time comes in at 15 degrees, what they mean is that at 15 degrees, when the earth is 15 degrees away from the sun, or the earth is a particular angle away from the sun, that is when Subh Sadiq appears. You understand what I'm saying? So it's just a different way of expressing the same thing. Don't think that they're abandoning the Sunnah way and now they're just working. They're not, because the Hadith speaks about Subh Sadiq. You'll see, we'll go through the sabak now. The Hadith speaks about Subh Kadhib, etc. So it's not like they leaving that. Like even like when we say, for example, the Zohr time comes in at 1 o'clock, it doesn't mean now we fix the time and we're not following the Sunnah and we're not following the Quran. That 1 o'clock is a reflection of what the Sunnah told us, that when the sun moves, you understand what I'm saying? The same thing here. When you say 3 degrees or 5 degrees or 7 degrees or 10 degrees or whatever degrees you say, that degrees is what? That degrees is just, it is a reflection of the actual Sunnah, which is just being expressed in different ways. So, when some ulama say that Fajr time comes in at 15 degrees, they saying the Subh Sadiq is when the earth is 15 degrees away from the sun. And when the other group of ulama say no, Fajr time comes in at 20 degrees, and they say Subh Sadiq appears when the sun is 20 degrees or the earth is 20 degrees away from the sun. Are you with me? So you get some interesting questions. Some actually say this question to me. You say, look here, I follow 15 degrees, right? But now, so that means Fajr times will come in at 6 o'clock. But this time now, I overslept and I woke up by our masjid. Fajr time had already come in. But the Fajr around the block by the other masjid, they working on 20 degrees. So that means their Fajr time never come in. So can I just eat and follow their degrees for today? Obviously not. Obviously not. That is what we call as talqi. Bismillah, tafadhal. So I hope that clarifies. I wanted to clarify this point that when you express it in terms of degrees, it's not an abandonment of the sunnah. It is not a. It's just a different way. Hello, who's calling? Yeah. Right. Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أول وقت الفجر, the first time of Fajr, إذا طلع الفجر الثاني. Fajr, the second dawn. I told you, first dawn is the Subh Kadhib, the wrong one, right? Which appears and it disappears. It's not the second one. Well, Bayadul Mu'taridu, it is the breath-wise length fil ufuqi on the horizon. Carry on. Yeah. وآخر وقتها ما لم تطلع الشمس. And the end of the time is as long as the sun did not rise. Right. So you need to understand this properly here. When we speak about the sun rising, we don't speak about rising fully. Even if it rose partially, or even if a portion of the sun appeared on the horizon. But here you have to differentiate between the sun and the rays of the sun. So many a times you see the rays of the sun, you see the brightness of the sun on the horizon, but that is not what we're worried about. Like like maybe in summer or maybe when it's the clear skies, you see the skies bright, or you see the skies yellow, or you see the sky is blood red. But the actual, in Urdu, you call it the tikya, the actual circle hasn't appeared. So you just look here, see if this is the horizon. The horizon is also an imaginary line. It's not a physical line, right? That is not, normally in the ocean you see this very nice. If this is the ocean, right? Just look here. There's the ocean, right? And there's the sky there, right? So if the sun is still there, right? Sun, the ball, the circle is below the horizon. No matter how much rays we see here, no matter how bright it is here, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We'll say the sun hasn't risen. Yes, if the actual sun, right? Even if a portion of it appears above the line, shoops like that there. Even a portion of the actual sun appears up. Now we'll say the sun has risen. So if you were reading your Fajr namaz and you haven't completed your Fajr namaz, whilst a portion of the actual sun pops up or it peeps up above the horizon, according to Hanafi Madhab, unfortunately, your Fajr namaz has become qadha. You will have to uh, wait until the sun rises properly 15 minutes after that, and you have to make qada. Now, normally, obviously, we can't see it. I told you because of various reasons. I gave you all the reasons that maybe we lived in built-up areas, etc., etc. So we normally follow the clock. So if the clock says at 6 o'clock, 100% the sun rise, and you went 1 minute, 2 minutes over that, you'll have to read your namaz again. So see there, wa akhir waqtiha, the last of the time of Fajr, ma lam tatu shamsu, as long as the sun doesn't rise. And I told you, and the reason why I'm emphasizing this here is because the Maghrib Masla is quite the opposite. When we speak about sunset, we speak of sun only when the whole sun has disappeared. So if you read your Asr while still a portion of the sun is on the horizon, there your Asr is still done. So there the Masla is different. There we won't say that even if a portion of the sun disappeared, you can't read Asr. We say as long as the portion is there, you can read Asr. But this is quite the opposite. Here we say even if a portion of the sun appears on the horizon, then you can't read your Fajr anymore. In fact, if you are reading Fajr, you have to repeat it. So please make a note of the difference between the. Is that clear? You understood that? Please make sure you understood that clearly. There's a difference between Fajr. I repeated Fajr, even if a small portion, not of the rays of the actual sun pops on the horizon, time out. If you're busy reading namaz, reread. But Asr is quite the opposite. So Asr time, even if a portion of the sun dips below the horizon, doesn't matter. So long as you started before the sun started setting. In fact, we'll discuss that in detail, right? So what is our proof? So we explained to you now that the Fajr time is with the breaking of dawn, the Subh Sadiq. We explained you what it is and what is the end time. So I told you yesterday, I mentioned again today, this could be roughly about 1 hour, 15 minutes, but it could differ from place to place, right? بحديث إمامة جبرائيل. So there's an interesting hadith, maybe I should read it to you. That when Salat became Faraz, Jibra'il Amin came to Nabi Sallallahu and he read all 5 Salat at one time. Then he came the second time. Then he told Nabi Sallallahu, you see, the first time I read Salah, that is the entry time of all your salawat. And the second day when I read that is the exit time. So anywhere between that 2 times you can read your salat. Anywhere between that 2 times you can read your salat. So this is our proof. The hadith imamat Jibra'il. Our proof is because of the hadith of the imamat of Jibra'il, where Jibra'il led Nabi in prayer. Carry on. أنه فإنه أما رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فيها في اليوم الأول حين طلع الفجر. Right, so see, فأنه that very Rasul, that very Jibreel, أما يأم means to lead. He led Rasul فيها, right, في اليوم الأول, in the salat on the first day, حين طلع الفجر, the moment the dawn broke, right, carry on. Yeah. And on the second day, وَفِي الْيَوْمِ الثَّانِي حِينَ أَسْفَرَ جِدًّا, when it was very, very bright. So I told you, remember I mentioned to you that the sun doesn't just pop out of nowhere. Like it's dark and the next minute the sun is on the horizon. Because as the earth is rotating, we're coming closer to the sun. So even though we can't see the sun as yet, we can't see the sun, but already we're feeling the effects of the sun, right? Because we're coming closer to the sun. So just say hypothetically sun rises exactly as at 6 o'clock, right? So if sun rises exactly at 6 o'clock, already about 15 minutes, 10 minutes before sunrise, you see, in fact, from 1 hour, 20 minutes from the break of dawn, gradually to become brighter, 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 until you see a redness on the horizon, then you see a yellowness on the horizon, then finally you see the sun will pop up, right? So what Nabi Sallallahu done, so let's just say, just for ease sake, just say the Subh Sadiq is half past 5 and sunrise is at 6 o'clock. So the first day Nabi Sallallahu came, he read namaz at half past 5 to show, right, Jibreel said, right, to show the entry time. Then the next day he came and he read say 10 to 6, just before. Obviously, he couldn't read exactly 6 o'clock because you need some time to read the salah. And so that 10 minutes before the rising of the sun is when the sun is at its brightest, when the sun is at his brightest. So then we're saying, that's saying, وَفِي الْيَوْمِ الثَّانِي, on the second day, حِينَ أَسْفَرَ جِدًّا, when it was very, very bright, right? وَكَادَتِ الشَّمْسُ تَطْلُعُ, and kada means أفعال مقاربة, it was very close that the sun would rise. Then ثم قال, so Nabi Sam done this, I mean Jibreel done this, ثم قال في آخر الحديث, then Nabi Sam said at the end, look here, ما بين هذا الوقتين وقت لك ولأمة. The first time and the second time, what is between us? This is the time of your people's prayers, right? ما بين هذا الوقتين وقت لك ولأمتك, right? Then I told you, ولا معتبر بالفجر الكاذب. There's no consideration for the the false dawn, that one that comes a vertical light and it disappears, right? Right? وهو البياض الذي يبدو طولا. It is that light that appears vertically, right? Long beam, like so to say, right? Then ثم يعقبه الظلام. That one which it is succeeded by darkness. So from this you learn the Subh Sadiq from the hadith. It is that light when it comes, it progressively gets lighter, 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 lighter. It doesn't go away, right? So ثم يعقبه الظلام. And what's our proof is the Qawli alayhi salam, because Nabi said, La yaghurrannaka adhanu Bilalin, that the adhan of Bilal should not deceive you. What was the adhan of Bilal? Azan Bilal radiallahu ta'ala, in the time of the Nabi Sallallahu, he used to give adhan for tahajjud. He used to give, that's to wake the people of tahajjud. So Nabi Sallallahu is saying that this first azan of Azan Bilal is not the one that signifies the entry time of Fajr. It is not the time that signifies the entry time of fasting. It is not the one that signifies the end time of Isha. It is all these times are the same times. It's the same time. That's why I'm saying all time. It is not the time that signifies the end time of Tahajjud namaz. Right. This is just to wake you up for Tahajjud namaz. So when Hazrat Bilal calls out his first azan, don't think the night is over. And don't think if you haven't read your Isha, don't think you can't read your Isha. If you haven't read your Tahajjud, don't think you can't read your Tahajjud. So, La yaghurannaka azanu Bilalin. That the azan of Bilal should not deceive you or fool you to think now the night is over. Walal fajrul mustaqilu. And neither to just long, lengthwise, vertical light deceive you to believe that Fajr is over. Then Nabi Sallam clarifies, وَإِنَّمَا الْفَجْرُ الْمُسْتَطِيرُ فِي الْأُفُقِ. That Fajr, the entry time of Fajr, is the one who spreads out on the horizon. The one who spreads out on the horizon. Ay, al-muntashiru, intashara means to spread out. Okay, so there, alhamdulillah, we've got the time of Fajr. Allah Ta'ala gave us tawfiq to practice upon it, right? Right. So read the next one, inshallah. Now we're going to discuss the Zohar time. Return the page. Right, Bismillah, tafaddal, read. Okay. Before we look at the sabak, I want to just correct something with you. You see, go to a lot of the masajid, you see they're written there zawal. But that is wrong. What is zawal? Zawal is when the sun has already moved. The correct word, okay, before we come to that. So the sun starts at the bottom, it rises, right? Like it forms an arc basically on the horizon. Just imagine this. Starts here, it rises, it forms an arc, right? So when it reaches smack in the middle of the sky, it pauses a little bit. And so that pause is actually istiwa shams. What is that called? So when it paused there for a moment where you're not allowed to read any salah, inshallah we'll do this, must remind me. The best detail is in the Sharaf Mishkat. I'm going to bring it for you. When you finish the time of salah, I'll bring that for you. And from Mishkat Sharif, and I'll show you the author summarizes very nice, makruh times, etc. Very nice. I will share that with you to remind me about that, right? So listen nicely. So when the sun is right in the middle, that's called istiwa ushams. So here in all our masjids, they got their zawal time. Zawal time is wrong. Zawal time is permissible to read salah because the sun, as the word says, zala yazuru means to move. It is already moved. Because once it starts moving, you can read your salah. So we must correct that. We must put in the masjid istiwa ushams. So Zenith. So Zenith means so maybe Zenith Zawal, maybe it rhymes. But also another reason, if you look at the fiqh books, you see in the fiqh books also they refer to this time as Zawal, which is maybe an oversight from our illustrious authors, the oversight, but actually it's istiwa. To see, so to understand it before look at the kitab, what is the entry time of Zohr? So I told you that the sun forms an arc. To us it appears as though it's forming up, but actually the earth is rotating away from it, right? So it starts at the bottom, it moves when it is smack on top, right in the middle, it pauses for a few minutes, and that is the time when it is not permissible. Risala, I will do that in detail with you, inshallah, from Mishkat Sharif, beautiful detail. Then it starts moving again, and this is called Zala, it moves. So when it starts moving, that is your entry time of Zohr. Read it now, see, وَأَوَّلُ وَقْتُ ظُهْرِ Yeah, see, Bismillah. So, وَأَوَّلُ وَقْتُ ظُهْرِ, the beginning time of Zohr, إِذَا زَالَتِ الشَّمْسُ, is when the sun moved, right? What's our proof for this? The Imamati Jibra'il because of the Iman of Jibreel. When Jibreel came and he read Salah with Nabi Sallam for the first day, then he read Zohr Salah after the sun moved, right? Fil Yawmil Awal on the first day, Hina Zalati Shamsu, when the sun moved from it. The next one now, there's a lot of ikhtilaf here between Imam Hanifa is on one side, Imam Abu Hanifa is on one side, and on the other side you have even Imam Muhammad and Imam Yusuf from the Hanafi madhab, and you have the three other Imams, they're all on the other side. This is now the famous Masa of Mithlain. I told you, when you come to the big hadith book, this is discussed in detail. If you go, they say like, if you go to Darul Ulum, Deoban, and those places, this masala that we're going to do now in 2 minutes, it is discussed for weeks. Proofs, counter proofs. What's the proofs? So, what's the proofs of the Hanafi madhab that Zohar time is two shadows? The other Imam said it is one shadow, etc., etc. Okay, I made a mistake. I supposed to explain to you first before we look at it. So the next masala is this here. See, I was telling you, what is the exit time of Asr? Or rather, what is the exit time of Zohar and the entry time of Fajr? So the sun starts at the bottom, it reaches the middle. When it reaches the middle, it's not permissible to read any salah. It will start moving, it starts setting, right? Now, this is the entry time of Zohar, right? So, when does Asr time end? Now, when the sun is right in the middle of the sky, you must do this. Technically speaking, there's supposed to be no shade because the sun is on top. But even then, there is a small shade. There is a small shade. And this is called Fay'uz Zawal. What is it called? Fay'uz Zawal. So normally, you can say that, again, it will differ from place to place or it will differ from season to season. But when you are calculating the entry time of Asr, you don't count this. This is not because it was there already. It was at the time of Zawal. So as I said, it could be one fifth or 5% of the actual object or more. So you need to know what your fay is. You need to know what your fay is, right? So now, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, when the shadow of everything is double its length, that is the exit time of Zuhur and the entry time of Fajr. So technically speaking, if I take the pen here and I stick it into the sun, right? And then after, from the point where I stuck it in, I measure one, I measure two, and I still have that amount of Fayuz Zawal. That is the entry time of Asr, right? Are you with me? According to Sahibain, Imam Muhammad, Imam Yusuf, Rahimullah, and all the other Imams, right? They'll say you calculate the Fay, which is the shadow that was there at the ain time, at the exact time, and one mithal. Then Zohr time is finished and Asr time is entered. I told you this ikhtilaf here, even if you, inshallah, Mishkat Sharif, I know you've done it, there's a lot of detail. When you come to Bukhari Sharif, tons of hadith to support either side, right? As is with the ikhtilaf by the fuqaha. But anyway, see, وآخر وقتها, the end time of Zohr in the Abi Hanifa, according to Imam Hanifa, إذا صار ظل كل شيء مثليه, when the shadow of everything becomes double. I showed you what I mean double. That from the point where you stick your pen, you must calculate it. If it's double there, I hope that's clear. You can't see what I'm doing. I'm giving a little small practical explanation here to Maran Lukman. But if you're not sure, we can try to explain again. So it must be double, right? So, Sara Ziluklu Shayn, we say, Siwa Faiz, besides the Faiz Zawal, that is the shadow at the time of Zawal, right? Waqala, Sahibain says, إذا صار الظل مثله, when the shadow everything must just once it's, so that was just one pin. So there's more ease and there's more latitude in the mazhab of Imam Hanifa because he's giving you more chance to read, right? He's giving you more chance to read, right? So he's saying, وَهُوَ رِوَايَةٌ عَنْ أَبِي حَنِيفَةَ. So this is also a narration of Imam Hanifa. So like I told you, remember I explained to those that are new with us, Imam Hanifa's students, they collected all his narrations, right? He had many students, but the most authentic narrations, which we say was collected by Imam Muhammad, and his opinions were collated in the what we call the Zawahir. That's those 6 books. And because Imam Muhammad spent the most time with Imam Hanifa, we consider his most authoritative opinion what was found in the Zawahir or the Usul. So The usul says the most authentic opinion is two shadows. That is why today in the Hanafi madhabs, we won't have, or rather in the Hanafi masajid, we won't have, and if you look on the calendar, you'll see Hanafi time, Isra time, you'll always be two shadows, right? Over the face. So the fatwa is upon that. Inshallah, remind me before we move on to the next time. I'll give you some instances that why, although the fatwa in the Hanafi madhab is on this here, although the fatwa is on this, but there are certain instances because it is also a strong opinion in the Hanafi madhab, and it is a strong opinion out of the Hanafi madhab also. There are certain times where the Hanafi ulama give permission where you can practice upon Sahibain's opinion and the other imam. Before we move to the next time, I want to discuss that with you. But understand this much that the fatwa, the default fatwa in the Hanafi madhab is that the entry time is two shadows, and we should always try to practice upon it because we are Hanafis. And me, I'm very, very staunch on the madhab. So I'll explain to you a little bit. Unnecessarily, I wouldn't read out of that time. I'll give you, before we carry on, I'll give you the reasons why, when, and how you can move away from that madhab. So, so that is so. See, yeah, they're saying so. It is also in the Hanafi madhab, or rather Imam Hanifa, but is the less authentic opinion of his, right? Right. وفي الزوال والفيء الذي يكون للأشياء وقت الزوال. I explained to this. I'll explain to you again. But this ibarat, this text, that the fay'u zawal is that shadow that is there when the sun is smack in the middle. So remember, it's called Fay'uz Zawal. See there? Wafi Zawali, at the time of Zawal, again, we mean, I told you, mean Wafi Istiwa'i. At the time of Istiwa, هو الفيء, which is a shadow, الذي يكون للأشياء, that is for things. وقت الزوال, at the time of Zawal. So even though the sun is right in the middle, there's still a shadow at that. So there's no consideration for that. We first factor that in, then we write. So lahuma, what is the proof of Sahibain that it is one shadow, right? لهما إمامة جبرائيل في اليوم الأول الأصل في هذا الوقت. They say the hadith is quite clear that Nabi, that as a Jibra'il Amin, he read Zuhur, or rather he read Asr after the first shadow. So if you read Asr at that time, that shows you what? There's the end time of Zohr. And there is a clear hadith. We admit there is a clear hadith. We won't say there's no hadith. We accept there is a hadith, right? So this is what Sahibain chose. This is what the other three Imam chose. So Wali Abi Hanifa taqawlu salam. There is another hadith also where it's mentioned clearly that Nabi, that Jibra'il read the Asr after two shadows also. So they seem to appear to be two contradictory hadiths. Are you with me? So that is one proof. I told you there's tons of proof. You look at the hadith book. Right? وَلِأَبِي حَنِيفَةَ قَوْلُ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ أَبْرِدُوا بِالظُّهُرِ. There's a statement of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that make the Zohar when it is cool. Make the Zohar when it's cool. So we say, when does it become cool? It only becomes cool after the first misal. You understand what I'm saying? What, until from Zawal till the first shadow is still very, very hot. Normally, if you must go, inshallah, you go to the Haramain Sharifain or you travel to the Khalij countries, you see after the first misal, then it is when it becomes cool. So the only way you can make your zohar when it's cool is when the first misal is finished already. So that shows you that if you for you to make zohar when it's cool, it means you have to make it after the first misal, before the second misal finish. So that shows you it is still zohar time. It is still zohar time. So that's our proof. Abridu bi zuhur, that make cool door in the cool time. Why? فَإِنَّ شِدَّةَ الْحَرِّ, because the severity of the heat min fayhi jahannam. It is from the hot winds of Jahannam. Right? Now we're saying وَأَشَدُّ الْحَرِّ فِي دِيَارٍ فِي هَذَا الْوَقْت. If you look at the Arab lands, the most severe heat is what? It is till the end of the second misal. That's only when it starts becoming too cool. So if we're going to say Zohar finishes with the first misal and Asr enters with the first misal, then there's no way you can practice upon this hadith. Are you with me? Right. So وَأَشَدُ الْحَرِّ فِي دِيَارِهِمْ فِي هَذَا الْوَقْت. So وَإِذَا تَعَارَضَ الْآثَارُ لَا يَنْقَضِي الْوَقْتُ بِالشَّكِّ. Okay, this next text here just requires a bit of explanation and time is up. So tomorrow, inshallah, so the times are a bit different for tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Mishkat Sharif at 9:30. Nah? Mishkat will start at 9 o'clock. We'll start the Hidaayah Sharif, and after that we'll do the Allah bihamdihi la ilaha illa anta.